It was a weekend's eve, and I had plans to get turned. The kind of weekend where you disconnect from the grind, explore the neon-soaked streets, and let Tokyo take you wherever it wants. But this time, Tokyo had other plans for me. I had been living in Tokyo for nearly a year, a fresh start in one of the most exciting cities in the world. My apartment was tiny, even by Tokyo standards, just enough space for a bed, a kitchenette, and a desk. But it was mine, and that had been enough. Working for one of the biggest tech companies came with its perks, but free time wasn't one of them. Nights like this were rare. That evening, I came home to get ready, shrugging off the week's stress. The hum of the city seeped through the cracks in my single-pane window. Distant car horns, muffled voices, the ever-present whir of vending machines. I tossed my bag on the floor and kicked off my shoes, ready to unwind before heading out. I noticed it almost immediately. My apartment felt different, subtle, almost imperceptible. But there, my keys, always left on the hook by the door, were lying on the counter. My slippers, which I had left by the bed that morning, were now neatly placed in front of the bathroom door. Little things. Things I tried to explain away. Must have been in a rush this morning, I muttered, more to myself than anyone else. But I hadn't been in a rush. I remembered the slow, deliberate pace of my morning, savoring coffee as I stared out at the city from my tiny window. I shook it off, chalking it up to my own forgetfulness, and turned on some music to drown out the unease. The familiar bass of my playlist filled the room as I sorted through my clothes for the night. But as I pulled open my wardrobe, something strange caught my eye. Sitting neatly folded on the shelf was a sweater I didn't own. It wasn't my size or still a dark, heavy knit that smelled faintly of cigarette smoke. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't bought it. I hadn't seen it before. I stared at it, my mind racing for a rational explanation. The feeling of being watched crept over me like a cold draft. I turned to glance at the window, expecting to see only the reflection of my room in the glass. But the faint outline of my face seemed off, warped, like someone else's shadow was sharing the space. I grabbed my phone and took a few deep breaths, pacing the small room as I tried to call a friend. The line rang twice, then disconnected. The unease was settling into full-blown paranoia now. I opened every cupboard, checked under the bed, even peeked into the bathroom, pulling back the shower curtain with a trembling hand. There was no one here, no place for anyone to hide. Yet, that oppressive feeling of not being alone wouldn't go away. Then I saw it. A pit began to form in my stomach. My mind raced, retracing every interaction of the week. Everyone I'd spoken to at work, every brief exchange with a stranger on the train or in the city. Nothing seemed off, everyone had been perfectly normal. But the questions wouldn't stop. How had someone gotten into my apartment? How had they gotten past security? A Polaroid photo, tucked neatly under my pillow. My heart pounded as I reached for it, pulling it into the light. My hands shook as I held it up. It was a picture of me, taken from above, lying in bed, the same bed I stood next to now. I stared at the image, my mind racing. Who had taken it? When? How had they gotten in? My apartment was on the 8th floor. The door was always locked. There was no balcony, no fire escape. A sound broke the silence. The faint creak of a floorboard. I turned sharply, my phone flashlight sweeping across the tiny room, illuminating nothing but shadows. The air felt suffocating now, like the walls were closing in. That was the moment I decided I couldn't stay. Not in this city. Not in this apartment. Whatever had been watching me, whatever had been here, was too close. I grabbed my keys, my bag, and left without looking back. As I locked the door behind me, I felt the weight of the Polaroid in my pocket. I didn't want to keep it, but I couldn't leave it behind. Somewhere in the depths of my mind, a single thought repeated. What if it follows me?